maybe stop there for a second, because I do want, before we close out this part of the conversation, I do want to ask you about two things that did come up in that New Yorker piece, and about what employers are going to do, right? Mm-hmm. So are they going to simply continue to trust the degree, or will they do some testing? And the other argument in this piece was that maybe STEM degrees, which have always been more rigorous compared to the humanities, okay, get ready for all those humanities graduates to send us notes. Is this going to be now a two-tiered system? But I'm more interested in, what do you think employers will do? Do you think employers will just kind of continue to trust the degree? Or if college is getting easier, AI requires us to have a higher level of thinking, different cognitive skills, different social skills, do you think employers might say, we're going to start testing for that?
Yeah. So this gets back to the Andreessen Horowitz, like a podcast, what was that, a year and a half ago at this point, where they sort of listed all the problems with higher ed, and they made the case that if universities are going to walk increasingly away from a meritocracy and have grade inflation and so forth, then employers are going to look for other signals effectively, whether that's their own testing or stuff like that, right? My own take is different. This is where, like, you mentioned the compact that the Trump folks have put out at the time of this recording, and one of them is hammer down on grade inflation. And my sort of note is, I agree, it's like a huge problem. And if we move to competency-based learning, by the way, like, everyone would be mastering. So I don't know that, like, the way they framed it actually solves any problems, if you will. But what I think it does, Jeff, is it forces us to center experiences far more seriously in the university curriculum to get real world connection with companies, where you are both able to show evidence that I can do the job, because I've had things where I've been asked to do the tasks right on the job, and I've built social capital. Because this is the other thing that's moving really quickly with companies, is these tests aren't super reliable outside of the most technical jobs, because employers aren't really clear on what the skills are at the heart of successful employees. So they're sort of grasping at lots of straws and trying to create lots of hurdles. And what we're seeing in the economy, particularly as AI is now doing the applications for people applying to jobs, is that there's just a massive increase, 1,000 job applications for an opening compared to, say, 200 to 300 previously. Before, up to 85% of people were hired by your network. Like, that's how you sort of got the job. I think that becomes even more so.
That's probably going to become like 99%, right?
Right. Become, what happens? I'm trying to find someone. I get 1,000 applications. Instead, I just call you up and I'm like, Jeff, do you know someone who does this well? And you're like, talk to these 3 people, boom, right? I think experience, it's intermingled with tasks and skills and social capital. And we can argue like which one is more important, but fundamentally they're interdependent. And I think being able to show you've done it and create connections, which is the lifeblood of an elite or great college university experience, is social connection with alums, with your fellow students, with professors, et cetera. That becomes even more valuable. So in some ways, like, I don't love the dichotomy between STEM humanities, because history major over here believing that the liberal arts are actually about to become more important. But I guess
I liked, Michael, how you corrected yourself by the alumni network being a piece of the elite, and then you said elite great college experience.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to
caught yourself on that.
Yeah, I caught myself.
It is. I think this is why people continue. As I go out and I tell people, open up your lens, widen the aperture on your lens and look at more than just the elite colleges. The question I inevitably get from somebody in the audience is, aren't we buying an alumni network essentially when we buy an elite college? I will argue, yes, the elite colleges have better probably alumni networks than anybody, but can everybody really tap into those? How easy is it to tap into those now? I'm wondering if that is, I wish somebody would do a study on this. Has that increased or diminished over time?
Yeah. So maybe let's leave it here on this segment, Jeff. What I think is experience, social connection was left to chance before. I would argue in an era of AI, it is the necessary part of the college experience for every single student, and figuring out how you do not leave that to chance. That's going to be what differentiates colleges and universities in the years to come. So maybe we'll leave it there. We can't wait to hear from listeners. Let's come back. We've got a lightning round of issues we want to get through because there's a lot going on in higher ed right now. We'll be right back on Future You.